Hi guys, welcome to today's YouTube video. I wanted to talk about the importance of taking a break or taking a time out during conflict. Now, I know in some of my other videos, I kind of talk about what that looks like, but I thought I would just take this video and do a whole separate one on the importance of taking a break or taking a time out when you're in the midst of conflict. So a lot of times what I hear about is that there's been a big blowout, whether it's loud and volatile or very quiet and a lot of distance. There's a lot of negativity, and I hear that we were in the midst of conflict and my partner just left, and then I got upset and I followed, or I shut down and I didn't talk to my partner for days or even weeks. And so it's all of that creates this negativity, this distance, this disconnect that builds and builds and builds in the relationship. And so when I talk to couples about the importance of taking a break, it doesn't mean that you're never going to talk about what was creating conflict. All it means is that you're going to take some time to cool off and cool down. Now, the reason why it's important to kind of have this as a plan before you just leave the room is because a lot of times if you're in the midst of trying to say something, even if it's like in the midst of anger, and your partner just leaves, guess what that's going to do if you don't know what's really going on? It's only going to make you more angry, and it's only going to intensify the fight, which leads to more negativity in the relationship. And, you know, sometimes if our partner just leaves when we're trying to speak, we might feel abandoned or rejected. And so our own issues start to kind of come up. So not only are we angry, now we're feeling abandoned, and then we're afraid. And, you know, and again, that just hurts. And sometimes in the midst of conflict, if we're not taking a break, we're saying things impulsively that are hurtful or harmful to the relationship. So let's talk about how to take an effective break or an effective time out in your relationship. Or in the midst of conflict. So first of all, what I want you to do is before you're in conflict, so let's say you're out to dinner and you're just enjoying the dinner with your partner or your spouse, it's always a good time to talk about how can we more effectively communicate even during the midst of conflict. And let's create a plan. So there's this thing called attack, blame, criticize, defend, and that's usually when we're in the midst of conflict. And so I came up with this other way. I'm sure I've talked about it in my videos. Appreciate daily, breathe in the moment, compliment one another daily, and then the last one is develop a plan. And so you're out to dinner, you're enjoying yourself, and you know, people say, well, I don't want to talk about conflict when we're not in conflict. I'm not telling you to bring up a fight. What I'm telling you is when things are cool, when you're enjoying each other, this is when you develop a plan. Because when you're in the midst of conflict, you know, you're not thinking clearly, or you're getting to that stage where you're flooded with emotions that you're not going to think as effectively. So first things first is saying, okay, let's develop a plan for when conflict erupts. What should we do differently that helps us kind of stay in it without things becoming hurtful or harmful to the relationship? So the first one is this. It's when I feel flooded. So when I become, you know, flooded with emotions, or when I start to see red, I'm going to call a break. So I just want to point out some research from the Gottman Institute. Dr. John Gottman says when we start to go into fight or flight, we quickly shut down and we go, you know, we lose peripheral vision, we lose the ability to hear, and we lose the ability to want to empathize or compromise. So we're literally stuck like defending or pushing back because we're afraid. We're in that fight stage. Or we're flighting. So we're quietly shutting down, but in our mind, what's happening is a lot of negative thoughts about our partner, right? I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying when we're in the midst of fight or flight, we're either verbally attacking or we're saying things in our minds that are hurtful or harmful. So it's first, take a deep breath and say, I'm flooded. Remember, Gottman says, like, state how you feel and state what you need instead of going into attack mode. So if we're in the midst of conflict and I say I'm flooded, that means we need a break. or I need a break, or I'd really appreciate a cool off time. So finding something that you can communicate to your partner, because again, when you start to go into that stage of fight or flight, you're not going to be able to have full sentences, right? So you just need something quick. And don't say to your partner, hey, you must need a break, because that's only going to create more conflict. You say, you know, it seems like we're in the, like, I need a break. You stick with I, not you. All right. And then sometimes I have couples come up with like a code word. So especially if they know they're really, they go right into flight pretty quickly. If I tell them create a code word, then if one of them says bananas, then that they know, hey, we're both elevating, or at least the person that's calling bananas is saying, I'm elevating, I need a break. And then we take a break. So the break is, I say, it's about 30 minutes. And in that 30 minutes, you're doing your deep belly breathing. So going back to Gottman's research, when he talks about when we start to stonewall, which is one of the 4 horsemen, you know, stonewalling is when we become flooded, and then we shut down, and then we go into attack, or we quietly in our heads start to attack, fight or flight. And the only antidote to stonewalling is we have to physiologically self-soothe. So in order to do that, what is that? We have to get our heart rates to come back down. And the way to do that is diaphragmatic breathing, the deep belly breathing. And so I tell couples, take a deep breath in and count to 2, and take a deep breath out and count to 4. And just do that a few times to start to get your heart rate to go back down. Now, if after you do that, if you're still kind of feeling flooded, some people are very external, so that maybe they need to do some push-ups or go out for a walk. Something to kind of get that out, and then take some deep breaths. If you're an external person and you want to stay in the fight and your partner calls a timeout, then go take a few deep breaths, and after your push-ups or you're taking a walk around the house, maybe you kind of write out what you're really trying to say. And that's the second, or like the third part of this break, is once you take about 10 to 15 minutes of cool off, you take the next 15 to really think about, what is it that I'm trying to communicate to my spouse or partner? What is it that I need them to hear that's important to me? And you stick with the I statements. You stick with the I feel, I need, I would appreciate. What's a positive need? Gottman talks about how to state a positive need instead of saying you. And, a positive need isn't you need to just listen to what I have to say. That's not what I'm saying. Stating a positive need is, for example, if I need my partner to take the trash, we've agreed on a list of chores to do, and maybe he's not kind of holding his end of the bargain. So when we come back to discuss, I'm going to need to say, I need us to come up with a plan that's most effective on how we can, how we can do the chores in our household. That's very different than you need to take out the trash, or you need to do what you've said you were going to do. That's going to lead to a fight. So again, in the midst of a break, you take 30 minutes, and the first half is deep belly breathing, and then the second half is really thinking about, what is it that I need my partner to hear? At the end of 30 minutes, then you go back and you meet up. And listen, guys, if for some reason you're still really flooded, then you go back after 30 minutes and you say to your partner, I still need some more time. And then you guys decide how much more time you need. Now, the other thing I want to mention is, if it's in the middle of the night, you're taking a break until the next day. In Gottman's book, The 7 Principles to Making a Marriage Work, he talks about sometimes you need to agree to disagree and table it until you can talk about it at a different time. And I think that that's a really important thing to remember. It's, if you go to bed mad, maybe you do. But the break is, if it's 11 o'clock at night and you're starting a fight, most couples I know, they're not going to bed until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And guess what? From 11 to 2, it's not effective communication. It's not any kind of communication or conversation usually that's going to help the couple come back together. That's why if it's 11 o'clock at night and you're both really heated, you call bananas or you take a break, and you say, you know, let's figure out a time. Take that 30 minutes and just come back and say, hey, listen, let's table this until tomorrow and let's go to bed. We're gonna agree to disagree. So, you know, I think it's important to remember when you call a break, you state how you feel. You guys have this plan. I feel flooded, I need a break. You have a plan. You have the plan before you're in the midst of conflict. You take 30 minutes to cool off, cool down, and really think about what it is you want your partner to hear. And then you come back to the table and you discuss, or you table it until the next day. Do not fight in the middle of the night. Nothing good happens when you're fighting in the middle of the night because you're both exhausted and you're going to be tired and irritable the next day too. Make sure you have the plan. Do not just say, I'm leaving, or I'm not talking about this anymore, and shut down. You know, state how you feel. I'm feeling flooded, I'm feeling confused, whatever it is, state how you feel and take the break. All right, so I hope this clarifies. I'm just gonna reiterate one more time. Develop a plan for a break before you're in the midst of conflict. When you start to feel flooded, let your partner know, hey, I'm feeling flooded, or I need a break, or I'm feeling attacked, I need to cool off. Short and sweet. Remember, in the heat of the moment, you're not going to remember everything, so something short and sweet, even if that is your code word, bananas. Once you call the break, take 30 minutes, and the first thing you do is your belly breathing, your deep belly breathing, to really help you get your heart rate to come back down. And then think about, once you've done your belly breathing, think about what it is that you would like to communicate to your partner. What do you need, positive need from them, or whatever the situation is. And then the last thing is, come back. After 30 minutes, come back to the table. All right, so that is what a break looks like. So I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for weekly updates all about relationships. And remember, don't be afraid to call a timeout, especially once you have developed a plan between you and your partner. Developing a plan helps you stay committed to the relationship and stay on track. You're gonna have conflict, guys, and that's okay. But it's learning how to have conflict and work through those difficult moments that really matters. Take care.